Welcome to This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is Two Up and Two Down. Here's our producer, Chris, to start us off.
All right, welcome back to Two Up and Two Down. Today we have a season 7 episode, The Invitations. So let's start off with the two ups with Chris. What do you got for your first one?
All right, folks, the season 7 finale. More important, we all know this is Larry David's final episode. So you got to find an up here. I always enjoyed Kramer at the bank. The whole, hey, it's not a hello, the whole thing, and going back to the bank and the group getting together. And, you know, I forgot, I should know what they settle on, $20. And he goes, I'll take it. So the whole bank thing, it's classic Kramer, just finding, you know, something local that annoys him, but he engages with. The hay scene with the K-Man, thumbs up.
All right, very good. Tony, what do you got for your first up?
Yeah, I wrote that down as well. Stephen Root is great as the banker. Love that scene. Love that Kramer. My up is actually another Kramer. I think Kramer had a strong episode in this. I know it's season 7. He doesn't give a lot, but he gives enough. I'm going with this scene when it's Jerry kind of going into the future and thinking about him and Kramer as older guys, not married, and Kramer comes in with the chicken. It does boom, 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 boom. I laugh at that every time. I don't know why. His clothes are all different. Kramer comes in with the periscope idea, which is a foreshadowing. I believe Curb uses that periscope idea later on. So it's a Larry David kind of nod to himself, if you will. But yeah, I love Kramer eating the chicken. I love that kind of flash forward scene. It's just Jerry taking a peek into the future. That's my thumbs up.
All right. So, Chris, we're going to go back to you now for your second up. What do you got?
Yeah, I had that as well. Classic, just so silly. Laugh every time you watch it. A couple here. You know what? I'm going to throw Susan a bone here. When George comes to her and says that he wants a prenup, and she bursts out laughing. I gotta give her credit. I think she did really well on that, and the whole, you know, I make more money than you. Sure, I'll sign it. I think that was well played, well acted. And again, we know Susan season 7 doesn't really hit it typically, but of interest, what I don't know, she's gone. She's not working at NBC. Where is she even working now? Like, where does she get this money that we were talking about? You know, so again, I don't know, but for that slice of time, we're going to give Susan a thumbs up.
Yeah, that's interesting. George is working at the Yankees at this point, so he's got to be pulling in a good salary. So, yeah, good question there. Tony, back to you. What do you got for your second up here?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a small one, but I think it's one we all remember. Everyone's kind of, you know, this will make everyone happy, I think. The old George flipping the book. Just the thud of the book, you know, the more least expensive ones are in the back. George pulls his old flip over, and that's it. I mean, that's my up. I don't have a lot here. I don't have a lot written down on this one. And that's what I'm going with. I think everyone gets a laugh on that one. Ultimately, it's a classic George, his final hurrah of being the cheap guy that he is. So, you know, the flip of the invitation book.
Yeah, that's enough.
Absolutely.
It's that's actually a smart up.
Well, I'm glad you approve.
I love that scene. So yeah, absolutely an up there. So let's go to downs. Chris, again, we're going to start with you here. What's your first down?
A lot of downs in this episode. You know, I don't want to take too many, but you know, I know a lot of people love her, but I'm gonna Janine Garofalo. She's at the whole with the Jerry montage. That thing bothered me. Like, getting the cereal, this, that, and the other thing. Like, again, this is when these montages start. And again, montage like this, run around the post office guy, whatever, the phone guy, whatever his name is, stupid. Like, smart montages like The Switch, you know, where they're figuring things out. That's great. So, but you either get it right or you're wrong, and this one was wrong. And but Janine Garofalo, on top of that, I just never really liked her. So her in my favorite show never really sat well. I'm like Kramer. I never wanted him to get with her, you know, and I always respected Kramer for that. So Janine Garofalo, the montage, down.
All right, big down there. So, Tony, we're going to go over to you. What do you got for your down?
Yeah, I actually like Janine Garofalo, but I wrote down the montage as a down for sure. The montage was horrible, and I also don't like. I don't like a lot of her scenes in this. I agree with O'Hara. Side note: I do like her though. I just want to get that out there in case she wants to join the program. But anyway, my George, my down is Costanza, and this is the beginning of the end. I mean, we've touched on even season 6. There might be some glimpses, but this beginning of season 7 to me, even though Larry David, I mean, well, it's the end of season 7, all throughout, I guess. But really, this. I mean, he's doing that whole screaming thing about freaking out, about not being able to go through with the wedding, just taking it over the top. I can't do it. Screaming and yelling with Jerry earlier on. This is really foreshadowing what's to come. It gets even worse and worse, but I think there's enough here to not like Costanza. I think he just goes too much with the freaking out and the yelling about this whole thing. And so that's my down, is kind of the beginning of the end of George.
Okay, good take there. Chris, what's your second down for this episode?
For sure, George yelling. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I wrote George yelling as a down, forget about it. So, a common theme that I talk about season 7 on is the forced nature when they all get together, whether it's a small room, an apartment, this, that. And it happened at the end, midway through this episode, when all 4 gather and they try to figure out ways to get out of it, for George to get out of it. Like, again, forced, whether it was the prenup, like the smoking, I'll tell you what to do. It was too much. Like, for me, that's a Jerry and George conversation at Monk's. We don't need the other 2. That's like, 2 best friends, fuck, what I do, I got to get out of this thing. Like, keep it real. This just, bringing them in, like, I mean, it's reminding me of the Mayan thing a little bit with the balloon. Like, just back it up. So, all 4 of them gathering. Believe me, there's more downs, but second down.
Second down. Okay. Tony, what do you got for your second down for the invitations?
Yeah, that was a really good down, I got to say. And I agree with those points. I didn't write that one down, but I remember in the scene, there was a lot I didn't like about this episode. My second down, I already kind of gave it away. So I'll use this one. I'm surprised Chris didn't use this one, but the killing of Susan. I mean, I know he was down on that. It's not even so much that they killed Susan, that it's the scene that they kill Susan in. I think I know it's a comedy. I know what we're going for here, and everyone's getting a laugh, but it's a little much. It's a little much to kind of everyone buy in to this fact that George is just like, let's go get some coffee. Like, I can even get his reaction. I can get their reaction. They don't know what to do. He wanted to get out of the wedding. Now she's dead. He's out of the wedding. But then to just be like, I'll get some coffee. A little rough. On that, I think. Obviously it's a comedy and we're all here to have a laugh, but I don't know. It didn't sit well live. It never really sits well in the reruns. I just think that whole killing Susan scene, although we love Dr. Wexler, friend of the show, giving the news to George, but that's a down.
All right. Susan being killed off the show, down for Tony. So now let's wrap this up with grades. Chris, over to you. What do you got for your final grade here?
Yes, and I do have that. I was saving that essentially for my grade because I think it was such a big miss. And listen, this is a polarizing episode, no doubt. Larry David's last. We've talked to Peter Millman, and he loved this episode. We disagreed. It's okay. That's what this is all about. But for me, this was it for me. This was the beginning of the end. This set the tone for the horror that we would then watch in these final 2 years. Boy, did Larry David go out with a bang. Larry David went out with an F, gentlemen.
Whoa!
The invitations, I give an F. We did our rankings, it was bottom 5 for me. It's one of those wild cards because, like I said, watching it live and then rewatching it again, I'm never comfortable with it. Listen. Then people are going to tell me, cohesion, what are they going to do with Susan? Give me a break. They replaced Morty. They got a new Frank. They They didn't bring back the Monks owner with the daughters with the breasts. They didn't talk about Kramer becoming a father. How many Jerry girlfriends, loose ends? They could have got rid of Susan in another way. And at your point, that last scene with Wexler, listen, we all know it's a comedy, but that just, I don't know. It just didn't sit right. I get the whole no hugging thing, but it just never fit, never sat well. So for me, The Imitations is an F.
Wow, that's a bold grade there. Unfortunately, that episode just doesn't bother me that much. So, Tony, I'm interested to hear what you have to say for a grade.
Yeah, I was expecting a low grade. I thought overall it got a higher ranking than that for us, but that's probably because I had it somewhere towards the bottom, but not quite that low. I am grasping for straws for ups. I'm also grasping for straws for down. I mean, the whole episode is just meh to me. That's how I would describe it. It's not a great episode. I agree, and I obviously didn't like the ending either. I think. It's Larry David's last episode, but I feel like there has to be, I'd love to talk to him about this because I feel like he's doing an FU to somebody or just like, here, deal with this. There's no more Sue. I don't know. There's something going on there because like O'Hara said, they could have got rid of Susan a million different ways and still had no hugging, right? They decided to kill her and then just walk. Very odd. Doesn't sit well. I've been going back and forth with grades. I'm changing it. He talked me into something here. I'm giving it a D. That's my grade. I think I'm not going as low as an F. I just think that's.
You had a C. You had a C.
I had a C minus. I'm dropping it to a D. I had a C minus because it's there as below average for sure. And
I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something with the Larry David thing. It was like an FU. And
yeah, something's going on there.
Again, the killing is one thing, but the way they reacted to it and kind of laughed it off. Even in a comedy, I don't know. You don't laugh off death.
Yeah, the coffee lines went through me. That's what I just was like. I'm watching it again. I'm like, wait, just go. You want to get some coffee? I don't know. Not great.
No, I forgot with the Marissa Tomei, like, just end the show. Like, why do the Marissa Tomei thing? You probably don't remember watching that, but he calls up Marissa and says, "I'm single now. Blah blah blah. My wife died." Like,
right.
It just it drove a bigger F into my F.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm giving it a D just to be fair to some of the other things we talked about. I mean, just enough with the Stephen Root in the bank with Kramer bumps it. I don't mind Garofalo as much as you do. I thought there were some funny scenes there with her. When they're toasted in the coffee in the comedy show at the end there. Georgie boy, I don't know, get a few laughs. I know you hate that because you hate her. That's why you don't want to call it Georgie boy. That's fine, fair. I'm giving it a D. I mean, it's not bumping this thing up to anything too crazy, but that's my grade, D.
All right, well, there you go. Well, like the bank manager says, pine is good, but for you guys, this episode is not good. So that's where we're going to leave it. So there you go, D minus or D and an F for grades. So that's it for the invitations, and we'll see you guys at the next episode.